we hear about all the possibilities now with AI. At the same time, right? What kind of data sources do you find most valuable? That it still takes resources and effort and investment to utilize all the data that enterprise possesses. So what are the good strategies and best practices around that?
Well, I think that's true. I think it's true that it's particularly for an enterprise, it's more difficult to actually put themselves in a position to leverage their data set. Typically an enterprise will, break down into two sources of data. They'll have structured data, and their structured data, potentially is much better understood than their unstructured data. Structured data, they'll probably have in certain repositories and databases, and perhaps even in some applications. Their unstructured data set will typically be stored, file-based or object-based, and typically it will be very large in size. Some of those unstructured data, lakes, repositories, can be petabytes in size. And the big challenge really for the enterprise is that data, typically is dark data. It's very difficult to understand which of that data set they want to leverage from an AI perspective. And actually, there's a challenge even before that in many cases, in that, part of the issue, especially with unstructured data that's stored, for example, on things like, file systems, is that typically it's split. It's not necessarily all on the same, solution. So you might have some on old Windows machines, you might have some on FTP repositories, you might have some on, legacy hardware or legacy NASs, and ultimately you're trying to figure out how you join that data set up to actually start to think about leveraging some of that data, from an AI perspective. Some of it's duplicative, some of it is just old and really needs to be archived. So there is really a data management aspect, first of all, to be able to coalesce those silos to get to a point where you have a consolidated, unstructured data set, at least, to be able to work with. And once you've done that, you really need to start thinking about, curating the data set at that point, figuring out which of that data is valuable to you from an AI perspective, and which isn't, and then you can start to think about how you can leverage that data inside of an AI solution, whether that is for things like fine tuning or model training, or whether that is more applicable to things like RAG-based systems, or whether it's simply to use inside of something like Azure AI Search, so that you can actually get more visibility into the data set.